All right. Come almost to the end of January, January 30th, 2024. Good morning. Um, and yes, your faces will not be shown.
Cool.
So you can remain anonymous. Yeah, I just was saying before we got on the recording that I had some treatment on my knee this morning and I'm recovering rapidly. And in a better, it's not been pleasant. It's been a lot of couching and trying to maintain a positive attitude, which I shouldn't even say trying to maintain a positive attitude. I should say trying to not fall into a negative attitude, which is the best I can usually do. And I've succeeded in that. I'm doing, gotten a lot of writing done lately. I don't know if I've told you guys that I'm working on a book in my Buddhism in the 12 step series, which is just on the 11th step. And it's purely about meditation, how to meditate and all the ins and outs, as well as the Bill Wilson's writing and the ordinary way of understanding it, and then everything, sort of everything I know about meditation. So it's progressing well, and I might be able to publish it this year um, because it's going to be one of my self-published books. And speaking of which, my wife keeps encouraging me to try to get I know a lot of you have read my book, A Burning Desire, which I've republished as Higher Higher Power, the new title, and I got the rights back to it. But if anybody feels so inclined to go on Amazon and give the new version of it a positive review, that might be a way to increase the algorithmic impact of its life so that, Kevin can continue to uh, do the things that Kevin does. Anyway, that's my marketing for the day. So we'll start with some sitting. And this is the rare day when I have not had a period of formal meditation. I did sit down and take 3 breaths intentionally before I left for the doctor, just to be able to say, okay, yeah. Which just to say, for those who, when you have those days when you don't uh, manage to fit in a full period of meditation, I think it's a really good practice to just say, I'm gonna just sit down for 1 minute or for 3 breaths or one breath, and uh, because I'm committed to doing this every day. So yeah, so I took a few breaths and I also had some time in the doctor's office waiting for him to come in. I'm moving my leg right now, so excuse me. Get it around the legs of the chair, the table, whatever. Okay, snap out of it. All right, everybody, we're gonna meditate. Uh, so just settling in to your posture, to um, however you like to sit. And I think all of you are sitting. If you need to lie down, that's okay too. And gently closing the eyes, just starting by feeling how you're holding your body, the alignment, balance, and then using the breath to relax the body. Oh, with the exhalations, you release the shoulders, soften the belly, relax the jaw, And just having a sense of releasing, settling, grounding, and feeling the body breathing. Just the natural movement, rising, falling, feeling the breath at the nostrils, in the chest and belly, and then letting the attention gather around one point of sensation, either the nostrils or the belly. To strengthen that attention, follow the entire breath from beginning to end. You might notice at what stage of the breath does the mind tend to wander, on the in breath or the out breath or in between breaths. In the beginning of a sitting, there's just this gradual process of arriving. The attention might be quite unstable. The body hasn't yet calmed down. Oh, in the beginning, it's more of a just mechanical process, bringing the attention back to the breath, noticing when the mind wanders, coming back again, trying to zero in on the sensations of breath, maybe having a hard time getting there. All of that is okay. Just takes a little time. So it's vital to be patient. Just sit with it. If there's some persistent agitation in the mind, might be that there's an underlying emotion or worry needs to be acknowledged. Just opening to that, breathing with that. Meditation doesn't take us away from life or give us an escape. It really puts us more closely in touch with life, with our own life, with our own heart and mind. And that can be pleasant and lovely, can also be challenging. So we need an attitude of openness, of acceptance, curiosity. And a gentle persistence. All right. Nice to do that together. Um, I don't have a single theme for today, but a couple things have been on my mind that I thought I could talk about, share about. One is actually very simple and it's not often addressed, which is just the breath itself. And each of us, our relationship to breathing, and which varies depending on our health and but but also some of us have chronic conditions that affect our breathing and um, it's just I think useful to recognize that when we say be mindful of the breath, it's your breath. It's not that you own it, but that it's particular to you, and to notice that. One of the things that Ajahn Pasno, I've heard and read him say a few times that um, he says, well, uh, when we're mindful of the breath, we tend to be more attentive to the beginning of the breath, the in breath, and then lose our focus on the out breath. It's like the stimulation or the initial thing is more catches our attention. And and I've read that not I don't think that's true for me. I tend to be much more focused on my out breath. And I use the out breath very intentionally to calm my body and I tend to like if I kind of I don't know, the in breath sort of isn't as interesting to me, and I don't think it's actually in the interest. I think it's actually that there's some subtle fear about the in breath, um, that I have to kind of get it over with, or I need to get the air in because I don't have great lungs, and so I'm kind of okay. And there I go. Um, but that's just an example of how, like, yeah, each of us. So just to put that out, like, you know, not think about, but notice what is characteristic of your own experience of breathing, you know. Um, and we talk about, paying attention to the breath at different points in the body. And typically I just mention the nostrils or the belly, but there's other places you can pay attention to the breath. And you might find that, the back of the throat or high up in the sinuses or in the chest or, you even in the back or the rib cage. There's many different ways you can pay attention to the breath and to not sort of feel like, oh, there's a right way to do this and it's supposed to be like this, and I'm not doing it right or I can't get it, but to just really be open to like, well, what is it for me? You know, it's just in a way, it's a minor point, but we can kind of skip over things like this that actually have ongoing impacts on our experience of meditating. Uh, it's really important to make meditation your own, like to own it and find what works for you. Because there's a lot of instruction out there and teachings out there about how to meditate and what's the best way to meditate and, and it's a very personal thing, and the more you make it your own, the more useful and impactful I think it's going to be for you to really find out what is it for you, you know. Um, so that was one thing that was sort of on my mind. Um, I guess a couple other things that I've been thinking about. Sort of the if I could say the big one in a way is the Three Refuges. Oh, which reminds me, I wanted to mention I am giving a talk this Saturday, 3 p.m. Um, in on the West Coast. Is it 3 p.m.? I'm gonna look it up. It's or maybe Monica, you can look it up. It's for Recovery Dharma. So the Recovery Dharma is having like some kind of international thing, and I'm getting to be a speaker. Let's see, where is it? Uh, and and um, and I'm going to speak on the oh, interesting. And the website doesn't really sort of. Oh, here it is, right in the middle of it. 2024 retreat, they call it. So it's Recovery Dharma. I'll put the link in the chat. Growth and Recovery Annual Online Retreat, February 3rd, so Saturday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific. So I am, I think, the last speaker, like 3:30 to 5, and I'm going to speak on the Eightfold Path, which is really cool. One of my favorite things to talk about. And so I'm really honored to be part of that. I'm not a member of Recovery Dharma, but I certainly consider myself to be an ally, shall we say, of Recovery Dharma. And hopefully that's a big deal. Uh, and so if you can make it, great. Uh, yeah, and the reason, of course, I think of that is because the Recovery Dharma was a spin-off of Refuge Recovery, and uh, and that refers to the three refuges of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And what has got me particularly sort of investigating the refuges is the some writing from again from Ajahn Pasanno, who talks about the importance of taking refuge in the sort of evolution of our path, and what he gets at, I've come to understand is that when you kind of take absolute refuge in the Dharma, it's it's really letting go absolutely of clinging to self, to I. It's it's living by and being completely oriented toward Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which is and I think and I've come to see that particularly in the Thai forest tradition, that this is their guiding principle, their guiding practice. And one of the things I like about it is very simple in a way. The idea, which I'll explain a little further, it's very simple, but as with many simple things, it's very difficult to fulfill because it's talking about not just like, oh yeah, I believe in that, or yeah, I do that, I meditate, or I'm sober, or whatever, your sort of framework for your spiritual path is. But it's saying, no, like I'm devoted to this. This is my North Star. This is where every moment I'm trying to be in touch with this. So refuge in Buddha, and this very much comes out of Ajahn Chah, the great Thai forest master, who was Ajahn Pasanno's teacher and Ajahn Sumedho's teacher, and was the founder of this sort of lineage now. So he would say that the Buddha is the one who knows. So he takes it out of the historical context, out of the figure, the historical figure of the Buddha, and puts it into the idea of a Buddha, which means awake or awakening. And so the one who knows is that aspect of mind, which is essentially awareness, the pure just being present. So we could say mindfulness, but I think that term has become so secularized that it's lost a little of its power to speak to what this means, to say, I'm going to try to really be awake in every moment. And and that's one thing to do, but to recognize what does it mean that we can't do that? Why is it that we can't do that? And when we start to pay attention, just in broad terms, to the way our mind is throughout our day, we see that so much of the time we're not awake. We are doing things by habit, by rote. We're not paying attention with real, uh, you know, full engagement. And so the implication of it uh, is quite deep. It really implies something profound. So, okay, no, I'll say more, but then the refuge in the Dharma, Ajahn Chah says that's the truth of the way things are, you know, which is sort of a kind of vague to me in a way, but it's really what it's trying to get to. And again, it really comes back to self. Like it's not about me. It's to see the three characteristics, to see the impermanent nature of things, the unsatisfactory nature of things, and the non-personal nature of things. And so now we're starting to get a picture here. I want to be really present, but my presence isn't just like, oh yeah, I feel my breath. I'm lifting my glass. It's I'm present to a particular vision of reality. I'm seeing in each moment, particularly this idea that this isn't about me. There's just awareness and there's the object of awareness, and that's all that's happening. And I'm going to try to keep that orientation going. And that's taking refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma, keeping this orientation going persistently. And then the third refuge is the Sangha, which traditionally refers to the community, but Ajahn Chah points to it as something more archetypal, which is that which manifests when the one who knows sees the truth of the way things are. What emerges is the Sangha. So it it on a personal level, what the Sangha represents is the purity of behavior. It represents sila, essentially, live ethically and harmlessly, to live with compassion and care, with kindness. So it's pointing out that, okay, when we talk about the one who knows sees the way things are, we're on this kind of mental level. And the Sangha is the then manifestation. It's now this is in becomes a physical reality. So, not to neglect that, right? Not to think it's all in your head. It's like, no, you also have to live this. And that's very much the orientation of the Thai forest tradition, that the way you live, that living together, living in harmony, again, all these qualities of kindness and wisdom, that's the true measure of one's practice. It's not, oh, I can sit for 3 hours and get into deep states of samadhi, and I have all kinds of insight into impermanence. Like, no, how do you show up when you're engaged in life with others and indeed with yourself? So, you know, I've come to see this on a what I feel is a deeper level than I've understood it before, and it's something I reflected uh, on this in this past fall when I was on retreat, and I was reading some of the book The Island. In the book The Island, Ajahn Pasanno, which was co-written. It's two basically two different books put together by Ajahn Amaro and Ajahn Pasanno, and it's about stream entry or the first breakthrough of enlightenment and how that happens, and what the sutras say about it. And Ajahn Pasanno really emphasizes these four things: the three refuges and Sila. And it made me very curious because I was reading and I was going, yeah, but I mean, the refuges really is that how important? I mean, and I had to kind of really ask myself what that meant. How 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 could the three refuges and Sila be so transformative? Uh, And and so this is kind of what came out of it was my reflection on, oh yeah, it's a level of commitment that frankly I don't have. I'm not able to get to this place. I think I understand it and I see what it is, but it's not something I've attained. And clearly the monastic lifestyle, which is a lame way of talking about what the hell they live, but clearly their life is makes it easier, makes it more likely that you're going to be able to maintain this orientation, right? Maintain this orientation of of clarity and wisdom. Um, so I think it's worth. I think you got many of you, most of you know me. Like I think it's really important to see what the ideals are, not to pretend that there aren't ideals, and also to see where we stand in relation to them, and then don't then try to turn that into motivation and not into self-judgment. You know, because nobody's perfect. I mean, Ajahn Pasanno, this is how he lives theoretically, but he's not, you know, completely absorbed in these three refuges of every moment of every day. I'm pretty sure. He's a very humble person who doesn't claim any particular, well, he's not allowed to claim anything. That's a rule of the monastics. They're not allowed to say how, what they've attained. But, um, but, the point is when you set up an ideal and then go, oh, well, I'm a failure, or I could never do that, or I'm so bad, whatever, you're just creating more unhelpful mind states. If, on the other hand, you say, um, you try to pretend like it's okay. Oh, the ideals, yeah. I mean, that doesn't really matter or whatever. I think it's important to recognize, at least to have some sense of what we believe to be the, I guess what I would say, the goal of this path, or what is an idealized version of it, and then to hold that with as I say, with motivation and care for ourselves, and to then continue on. Um, the other the other thing I've been reading lately, and I've mentioned this, is a book called, it's a brand new book called More Than Mindfulness. And it's another one that you can download. I have it on my Kindle. And it was compiled for Ajahn Pasanno's 50th anniversary of his ordination. So he was ordained in 1974. And he has some chapters in it, and Ajahn Sumedho has a couple. And there's one by, I think it's Ajahn Jayasaro, who goes through the 10 uh, perfections. That's quite wonderful. All of the chapters that I've read so far are really, really helpful. But the the 10 perfections, if you're not familiar with them, something it's one of the lists I've had a hard time memorizing, so I've finally broken them down into categories to help me memorize them. My mnemonic device is that there are four sila elements, which are dana, which is generosity, sila, morality, um, truthfulness, and renunciation. And then there are three, what are the, see, am I going to lose it? Oh, three effort elements: patience, energy, and uh, persistence or determination. And then there are three other ones that are wisdom, loving kindness, and equanimity. I'm not sure how to categorize those, but those are easy to remember. So the one that I find particularly interesting, or at least I like, is the one about persistence and determination, because I have a lot of shortcomings both as a human being and as a meditator and as a Buddhist. Some of you may know that I don't like to say that I'm a Buddhist. I'd rather be an alcoholic than a Buddhist, as I say. But anyway, what I do have is persistence. So there's that Zen description of practices, the long enduring mind. I like to think of myself as having a long enduring mind. It's, you know, I haven't risen to great heights, but I have kept at it. And I'm just a great believer in that. And this relates directly to recovery, because recovery is nothing if not about a long enduring mind. You know, we we don't measure recovery by some high points or low points that we experience. We measure it by sustaining it. And maybe we shouldn't even do that. I mean, frankly, you know, this is one of the ways that I think it can be harmful for people, is certainly harmful for people I know. Most people relapse. And when we set up a model of, oh, you're not, if you relapse, you failed, we're really not being helpful. So just recognizing that this isn't an entirely beneficial viewpoint, it's it is nonetheless a viewpoint that we have, which is, if staying clean and sober or staying on your path or whatever your program is for sustained periods is what we call success. And again, issues with that word, because there's also, being a dry drunk. There's people who are bitter and unhappy have been sober for a long time and, you know, go around making other people irritating other people by, with all their time that they supposedly, show that how recovered they are. All that being recognized. Nonetheless, this is like a foundation, let's call it a foundational element. We have to build on it, right? It's not enough to just not drink and use, but that's the starting point, and then we build from that. And the same is true of our meditation practice, that it's not enough to just every day sit down and like, okay, I'm meditating. Okay, I'm done. I'm out of here. That's, that's just, you know, performative, really. Uh, One of my favorite modern words. But nonetheless, it's it's the necessary first step, necessary first component. And oftentimes, as with recovery, that's the best we can do, right? Sometimes it just everything is shit. but I didn't drink today, Sometimes everything is shit, but at least I meditated. And but that's certainly not like, oh, okay, that's good enough. No, of course not. I want to be more than that. But I do love, so just coming back to the perfections, this idea of just the long enduring mind, or the determination or persistence, which Ajahn Pasanno, when I saw him in September, he told me that uh, Ajahn Chah really emphasized patience in practice. And again, same idea, right? That just stick with it. Just stick with it. Uh, so some thoughts for you today. I hope something landed in a helpful way, but I really appreciate people showing up and being here and seeing some nodding and some smiling. So I'll open it up to see if there are any comments or questions, thoughts. Thanks. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, it was really a wonderful talk today. This is why I've been drawn into your work. I mean, there's so many parallels in our lives, and I really appreciate that never ending and the enduring mind. You're very persistent. I've never given up on myself with my food addiction, and it's great to be sober and clean and all.
Right.
But you know, all the work that I've done is really starting to pay off. I mean, it's been years. I've just been sitting and meditating but just taking the practice to a different level. So the other couple quick comments is that I'm really looking forward to your new book. And I was curious if in my morning men's group, every Sunday we go through this little book called Sought Through Prayer and Meditation. And it's all on the 11th step, and it's 52 weeks. It's I guess some really old Gino W. with William G. whatever. It's about anyway, the AA guys that got together, and there are just 52 stories of how they use the 11th step. I'm so excited now to kind of cross-reference when I read your book about the 11th step. And then the other thing is that I am a member of Recovery Dharma, and in my Saturday group meeting, we discussed the fact that you're going to be speaking this Saturday. And we had a home group that was in person here in Sonoma County in Santa Rosa many years ago before the pandemic and after the pandemic. So I was in the middle of all that transitional stuff, and it was very political. But anyway, we have a nice small group that's probably going to intend to listen to your talk this Saturday. So I'm just thrilled about everything that I heard today. And I want to thank you very much for your ongoing commitment to this group and to our Sangha. It just means the world to me. It's really helping me in my life and my recovery. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I get the sense that Recovery Dharma is stabilizing, and I think the most important thing is keeping it going so that people develop the program. Ironically, or whatever, surprisingly, the way I wound up involved with this talk is that last summer I taught a day long in Philadelphia, which is 50 miles from my hometown, which is Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And somebody from Bethlehem came to Philadelphia to see me. and he leads a Recovery Dharma group in Bethlehem. And he was like, yeah, I'm involved with the Recovery Dharma, and we might try to get you on this. So it's like somehow through my hometown recovery group that I, have never been to. I'm
Well, the online meetings are, our little Sangha on Saturday is growing, and we could never reestablish the in-person meeting because of the separation. And there was this group over here, so you could never come up with enough money to pay for the room. But no, the online Sangha is growing, so we're looking forward to your talk.
Good. Nice, Steve. Thanks. Debbie, hi.
Hi there. Oh, I'm so happy to be here this morning. I have not been able to make Tuesdays for quite a while. So thank you for this meditation. Everything you offered today felt so resonant. I've been, sensing a little bit here and there, little spots of shortness of breath and trying to figure
Mm,
out why. Am I not exercising enough? Am I doing too much? Is there something going on?
yeah.
All these things that kind of come up. And so in the meditation, just being able to be with it and start realizing where my angst would come up with it.
Mm,
Why can't I feel that deeper opening? I'm imagining the little um, alveoli, the deepest
mhm,
parts of the lung. I want to get
mm,
some air in there. And I was able to get to a point where I just let it go and said to myself, trust the body to receive the breath that it needs right
yeah.
now. And can I just be with that? And it was a letting go, right? And accepting. And there was a relief in that. And then I also noticed it found its own way to kind of like where I was struggling to get to earlier and couldn't
Mhm,
get there.
yeah.
There were a couple things, it fulfilled itself in the way it needed to. So thank you for that. And then also, just before coming here, I was reading in Joseph Goldstein's Mindfulness
Uh,
and reading in the chapter on working with feeling tones in the cradled in the energies of worldly and unworldly.
mhm,
And so today, when you were speaking, um, what you shared about the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha, that's kind of our entryway to the unworldly
mm,
experience of
mm,
our feeling tones.
mm,
And then the three poisons of desire and aversion and delusion are where we get caught when we get over attached to our worldly
mhm,
experience of feeling tones.
right.
And there's no judgment around it, just noticing when we are where we are.
Yeah.
And this is part of our human experience, and it's okay. And yet, we get to touch these points of insight and wisdom which come up if we sit long enough.
Yeah.
Even I find that happens so much when I'm doing nothing more than being with the breath.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for this morning. I just feel like my day has begun beautifully.
Beautiful. Thanks, Debbie. That's great. Looking forward to teaching with you in a few weeks. Yeah.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I posted a couple of the PDF information for people. We have a few more double rooms available.
Cool. Yeah. For those who don't know, we're Debbie and then Greg Pergament are joining me to teach a retreat from February 27th to March 3rd. I know a bunch of the people on here are signed up. Yeah. And but yeah, a few spots left, and we actually have some scholarship money too for those who are stretched a little financially. So yeah, I had one more thing since I don't see another hand up. One more thing that I'll just drop in here, which is a practice that I've worked with on and off. Uh, well, I was reminded of it in this book, More Than Mindfulness, I've been reading, and it was actually in Ajahn Jayasaro's chapters as well on the 10 perfections, and he mentions when he talks about renunciation, he was talking about how when people ordained in Thailand, and I guess with Ajahn Chah or in his community, that if they had some feeling of uh, reluctance, and maybe even not necessarily reluctance, that they were encouraged to ordain not with the commitment to be a monastic for the rest of their lives, but to ordain for a certain period of time and then reassess. So say 3 years or 5 years, they would say, I'll commit to it for that period. And it reminded me of a vow practice that I have done uh, around some particular difficult, habits of mine which I will not disclose. Yeah, I have to have something that's a private life. I'm very open, but um, and and it's and it was very helpful because it's like, oh, commit to a certain period of time rather than saying, oh, this is like, I have to be like perfect for the rest of my life, but just like, okay, we just commit to this and it's okay. These aren't like life-threatening issues. They're just, preferences or feelings. This would be, something more beneficial and so to make a temporal commitment to it and also, but then what I have done in the past has been very specific about the things that uh, tended to trigger me to uh, into the less into these unhelpful uh, aspects and so applying the principle of right effort, which is avoid the unwholesome qualities that have not arisen. And how to avoid them is to avoid the things that trigger them, right? And so having a commitment that to interrupt those things with mindfulness, and then each time I encounter a trigger, that I stop and I take 3 breaths. And that makes me more mindful generally in my day. And it also just interrupts and helps me to avoid the unarisen, unwholesome qualities. So I just thought I would share that. I hope it's not too vague to be helpful, but just the idea of a vow as opposed to I'm going to like different from a resolution, sort of like a vow has something a little bit more power coming from the heart and the commitment. So, and one that's limited in scope so that, you don't feel overwhelmed by it. So I'll leave you with that. I am also, I don't, some of you are in my living kindness class, which is this afternoon. Um, and I told them that anytime anybody wants to join the course, they can join it. So if I see that Monica put a link to that in the chat if you're interested. And it's essentially using my book, Living Kindness, as a framework for reflecting on loving kindness and the Brahma Viharas. So, all right. Thank you all for showing up. And it's nice to spend some time with you this morning. May all your knees be very comfortable and healthy.
Just replace it like I did mine. It's a piece of cake.
Yeah. So far, I haven't had to go that far.
You're lucky. Don't go through that.
If I can avoid it.
I'll see you this afternoon.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kevin. Take care of
All
yourself.
right. Yeah, good to see you, Bill.
Yeah.
We'll get out and
Thanks.
play some golf soon.
Yeah, let me know when you're feeling better, okay?
Yeah. Well, after this spell of rain, it's going to be a couple of weeks. So
Yeah, I know. Everything's pretty soggy out there. So
yeah.
talk to you later.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Keep going. See you.
Yeah.